Incident!
Martin's been very impressive. Every single point.
Thanks to all the Carlton supporters, thank you for all the love.
Since playing Glasgow, and there's a magic moment. Ball inside 50, control! He strikes it beautifully. He's got it.
Oh, there it is, Joe. Welcome back with me, mate. Blue Abroad Show Daily Recap. Good to have you here.
Thank you, Tez, mate. That intro gets me pumped every time. It's insane.
It's so good. I wonder if it will ever get sick of it. We're big fans. I think the people love it too.
Absolutely.
Yes. Well, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to episode 7 of the Trade and Free Agency Recap, brought to you by our lovely friends at Assertive Media. When I say friends, I speak of none other than the Godfather, Shad Daddy, who runs our production services in the background. We love him and we love his work and we love his company because he has allowed the channel to go onto a totally different level. Although we haven't been in the studio a lot, we will be there soon. But we thank Shad for all his fantastic work. I know that not a lot happened today. However, I feel like there's a lot to talk about today, Joe. And I've sort of flirted with the idea of extending, going a little bit longer, but I do want to keep the promise of keeping it in 30 minutes. So, we've got a few things to get off our chest. Not so much of a rant, but I feel like we're going to get fired up tonight, and we're going to, as soon as anytime Essendon is spoken about, or De Stoop or Dodoro, things just happen to us. So I'm looking forward to it. But Joe, talk to me. What about you? How was your day? What did you take from today, high level, without going into detail?
Yeah, it was another day, just nothing. I mean, there were a couple of trades done across the league. I think Braden Bruce got to GWS for pick 30-something. There was a pick swap, three-way deal. Like Steph Martin moved, Lockie Young moved in a 3-club trade there. But really, nothing. Again, like I've said for so long, this trade period window, the official window, should be 3 days. First day should be get the small deals done out of the way. Second day is for the final bit of posturing. Third day is that deadline. Theatrics, late deals come in, and then off you go. But I just think 9 days or 10 days is too long. But look, it is what it is. It's going to go down to deadline, and that includes the Sard deal, I think, at this point.
Yep, sure will. We will get to the Sard deal for sure as everyone starts rolling in. If you're new here, welcome to the Blue Abroad channel. Where you been? We are going to be giving you a daily recap, 30 minutes of what happens in trade and free agency period. So you don't have to sift through all the news. We'll do that for you. And if you're returning, welcome back. It's great to have you here. Let's begin. First item on the agenda. It's a quick one. It's in relation to Adam Treloar. And it's probably going to be the final update that we have on the channel in this regard. It was basically, I saw a tweet this morning, Joe, from Sam Edmund. It was a quote of Sam Edmund saying the Blues have shown almost no interest in Adam Treloar. It's not going to be Carlton that Treloar ends up at. And we kind of spoke about it a little bit. We've postured about what happens if salary is this amount, that amount. Do we then jump for it? Did we muck up in paying McGovern, which has now hurt us because now we can't go for Treloar? There's a lot of things in the air, but it's over now. I just hope it doesn't come back and bite us.
Yeah, look, I mean, it would have been nice at the right price. I think he's a player that we could have used, but obviously the club has different plans. Sard's our priority at this point, and then this talk of that third player, I think we all can probably come to the conclusion that it was Oliver at this point. I don't think there was ever actually any proper talk in the media that Treloar was ever part of those conversations. So, I mean, it is what it is. At the end of the day, he would have been nice, but at the same time, he's 28. He's got soft tissue injuries. Probably would have had to have given up a first and taken on a $600K contract at a minimum. And then what happens if his body breaks down going into his 30s in 2 years' time on a 5-year deal or a 4-year deal? So I think the club's made the right call there. It looks like it's just going to be Sard and Williams, guys. There might be a third in like a Lockie Fogarty or something done late for a small forward. And I think that's enough for us this year. Let's look at stockpile. Or I mean, look, if we can keep, and we'll talk about this later, but if we can keep pick 8 as part of all of this, there may be something we can do for next year and stockpile picks next year, and next year's the year that you go big and get that marquee player.
Yeah, absolutely. So That's that. On to the next item. Just like that. A new name popped up today. His name's George Hewett, plays for the Swans. I'm not sure if this is a little bit of just throwing a bone out there and seeing who will bite, but it's become evident that the Swans have made him available for trade. He's got a year left on his contract, and I kind of want to talk about him a little bit because he's in that age bracket. He's 25 years old. He's a really honest, tough player. He's probably not a superstar type player, but Joe, what were your thoughts? And you guys at home, what do you think about someone like a George Hewett? I know we're 2 or 3 days away from deadline, but is this something we should be picking up the phone for?
Yeah, it's a weird one. For me, this feels a lot like a Nick Newman type deal if it was going to happen. So like super last minute, doesn't really get spoken about for a 4th round, 3rd round pick, whatever it is. He'd probably cost anywhere between a 2nd or a 3rd. But I think he'd be a really serviceable player. For me, he kind of feels like he's in that Matt Kennedy mold again. So like a Dunstan, but probably a little bit better than Dunstan. He's probably got more consistency under his belt than what Dunstan has in terms of games played and stringing games together and what he's shown. But he'd be essentially your Ed Curnow replacement. Like we've seen what he's done to Cripps a couple of times when we played Sydney. And he can put a hard tag on, right? And he knows how to find the football at times, but he's not renowned for his disposals. I think he averages about 17.5 disposals a game, which is about on par for AFL average across his career. You know, his clearance work it's 3.3 across his career, so that's average as well. But what he does really well is he gets the ball out of a contest once he's got it. His contested possession rate's around 50%, which is really good, and he's got really good ground ball getting numbers at around 7 per game as well. His pressure acts at 16.5. It's average across the AFL, but it's also sort of on par for what you'd expect from a tagger. The stats don't get counted for a tagger just by holding someone's jumper at a contest that the umpire doesn't see. It's got to be seen. It's got to be there. So I think for me, he's your Ed Curnow replacement if Matt Kennedy doesn't step into that role. If Matt Kennedy falls out of favour, and we spoke about yesterday with Pom where Matt Kennedy's at. If Matt Kennedy does fall out of favour, he doesn't have the backing of Teague, then George Hewett's someone that you could absolutely look at. And at worst case, he's a depth player for a year before he steps in and plays 22 full-time in the middle.
Yeah. I'll just put it out there just for you guys. I'm seeing a few comments out here. Greg's from Brisbane, loves the channel. Why is Dodoro being such a fucking spam jar? It's holding up everything. Love that. Anthony Griffiths, guys, seriously, have you looked at his stats? You're way overplaying this. He's no good. Fair enough, Anthony.
Yeah, Anthony, again, though, he's not. It's not about with Hewett. For me, it's not about his stats. Like, you've actually go and watch his games. Look at what he does off the ball. So he's in that. He's almost in that Ryan Crowley mold, just not as much of a pissant as what Ryan Crowley was with players. So I think he'd be more than serviceable. Just don't look at his stats alone. You got to look at him as a more complete player than that, I think.
Yep. Riley Mitchell, we've written off Treloar based on a journalist's tweet. I'm not saying we're going to make a play, but if we're ever going to be interested, it will be late after showing no interest. Sauce isn't there, so the ego isn't playing a part. Late play, let's see how much they will discount him or keep him. I wouldn't be shutting the door just yet. Fair enough, Riley. That's a very good point, mate. Maybe this is all just part of the grand plan. I think I did say that he did medical today at the Dogs, though. So we'll see. I feel like we'd probably want to have a medical with him if we're going to be somewhat interested, right? Like, he would need to complete a medical.
Yeah. Oh, he would, absolutely. He'd have to meet with us. I mean, there's only 48 hours to go, so unless it's scheduled for tomorrow, I can't see any potential for that to come through at this stage. It looks like he's going to be part of that Dunkley deal with the Dons. So if anything were to happen, it would be a 3-club trade there from what I'm gauging.
Yep. Why do I like? Who else is hyped about the Daily Dodoros? Jamal goaded. Sorry, why do use act like we're getting every player? Nah, we're just talking to see if there's a play to be made. We're not getting every player. To be honest, Joe, I mean, you've said this from pretty much the beginning. After the whole Oliver thing was, dwindled down a bit, it was kind of like Williams, Sard, happy days. Maybe a third string player.
Well, when was the last time the Carlton Football Club got 2 players in the caliber of Sard and Williams in the same trade period? Well, in my lifetime, I can't remember having 2 of that caliber come in. So It's an A+ if that third player doesn't come. If that third player were to come and it was Oliver or it was a Wines or whoever we were thinking it may have been, A++. But you have to walk away from this if Sard gets done, whether it's through a trade or the PSD. You got to walk away feeling absolutely stoked as a Blues fan.
Yeah, for sure. Let's move on because I do want to save some time for what everyone's here to see and listen to and contribute to. We obviously want to lead up to the Dodoro roast, but this will link to the Dodoro roast because it's kind of all about Essendon in a sense. The next item on the agenda it's the Essendon media machine, and we've spoken about it over the last this is episode 7 now. So basically, it's Joe. It's kind of crazy how much there is an Essendon influence in mainstream media this trade period. I'm sure it's a coincidence. I'm not saying there's a conspiracy and Essendon have planted people here and there, but everyone on every segment has an Essendon link. And I want to play a few clips today. And the beauty of, I guess, what we're doing tonight and every night is we get the final say. We get to hear about what happened today, dissect it, and then react to it. So I'm going to play you the first clip. Now, Dodoro and Goddard were on their segment today, and they made there's 2 specific comments I want to get your thoughts on, Joe, and you guys at home. So we'll play the first one.
You think Carlton just as much
well,
to blame?
I think on this, Adrian's an easy target, and certainly at times he's made things very difficult in trade periods. But in the end, if you're Essendon, he's generally got the deals done that he wants the club to get done.
Yep.
But maybe in this one, and people ring up and say, well, he's not worth pick 8, he's in the mid-teens, but Carlton don't have that pick.
Yeah, so stop saying that.
Yeah.
People stop saying that. We know he's, in a perfect world, not worth pick 8.
Yeah.
He's worth a pick in the mid to high teens. We understand that, but they don't have it and they can't get it.
Yeah.
Well, Brendan and Julian, Joe, I'll let you reply first. And you guys at home, what was your reaction to that?
It's happened all trade radio, right? And the Stoop Goddard segment is my worst. It's the worst time to tune into trade radio for the day. Not even just as a Carlton fan, as a neutral. It just seems like the most stuck up, pretentious segment on trade radio at the moment. I don't know what it is. It's just got that vibe about it. But come on, you got a renowned Essendon supporter in the media in Julian De Stoop commenting on the Essendon Carlton deal. So of course, and as much as these media representatives say they can take their club hat off when they're doing their job, they don't. There's always underlying tones of where their support lies. And then you got Goddard that went there to finish his career. Of course, he's going to stick up for that club. Now, there's 2 parts to this. The first part is the Essendon bias and how much that really is starting to piss me off as part of trade radio. The second part, there's a comment made by Goddard that I just I shake my head and laugh at. So if you listened to their show today, you would have heard that part. And then as we showed, Goddard saying that Sard isn't worth pick 8 in a realistic world. He's worth a pick in the mid to late teens, but Carlton don't have it and they can't get it. So they have to give pick 8, right? And I know you're going to comment on this as well, Tez, around what we do and don't have to do. But for me, literally 10 minutes later, in the 10 minutes following this statement by Goddard, they went on and spoke about how once Essendon get pick 8, they can then pick swap with Brisbane for 18 and 19 to get the Caldwell and Dunkley deals done. So Goddard's gone from saying, the Blues can't do anything with pick 8, so they got to give it up, to then saying, but once Essendon have got it, floodgates open. So
even before we go there, which you're spot on, before we go there, let's unpack what we just heard, right? They're talking about Carlton can't get pick 8. They're talking about Sard's probably worth a pick in the mid to late teens. So Riley Starrai, my man, in the Queensland, I'm in the Queensland Carlton supporters group for Queensland, and there was another offer that we made to Essendon according to Sam Edmund, which Riley forwarded into the group. It was Essendon get pick 8 and a future 3rd, and we get Sard and a future 2nd, which would bring that value back down to that mid to late teen pick or 2022 pick for Sard. So not only have we tried to get this deal done once, we've tried to get this deal done twice. We've got the Essendon commentary team over here talking about what Sard's really worth. We're putting a deal on the table that actually equals what he's worth according to the words that we're hearing. And it's just gotten to the point now where it's like, fuck it. we're trying. Like, it's not like we're not trying.
Agree. Like, I absolutely agree with that. We've gone. I think if I were to put an estimate on the amount of offers that were put to Dodoro that have been rejected, it would have to be over 10 at this point, from what we've heard, or the back and forth at least, right? So the fact that we have even, I said it the other night, the fact that we've even put pick 8 on the table as part of this deal for an uncontracted 27-year-old halfback flanker should be enough for Dodoro to go, we have done brilliantly out of this deal, because we do not need to even trade with them.
The onus is right.
Like, walk into the preseason draft. Do it. If we're not getting a third big player, front load the hell out of his contract. No one will match it. Take pick 8 to the draft. And then for me, what I would do is on draft night, if there's a player there that you want, that he's a midfielder or a small forward or whoever it is that you've targeted and gone, you know what, he's available, let's just take him. You take him. If not, on draft night, trade live with someone for pick 8 to secure a future first. You got 2 future firsts next year, a 2022 pick as well. That's 3 future firsts within 2 years that you can offload for 2 A-grade midfielders next year if you want. So the fact that pick 8's even on the table still makes me sick, and the fact that Dodoro has rejected it multiple times now makes me want to throw up. It does my absolute head in. I don't understand what this guy's problem is. I can't believe it has not been done to this point.
Yeah, I mean, look, from our point of view, why we would even, because ultimately the way I see it, the onus is on Essendon to get something in return for Sard, otherwise they're losing for free, right? So, however, from our point of view, we want to get Sard done because we really don't want the headache and the stress and the anxiety of waiting for preseason draft. Like, we know it's there, but you don't want to be relying on it just because anything can happen. And that's probably why we've said, okay, well, we'll offer pick 8 in a deal and see what we can do just to relieve the stress, and we can get him done nice and early, and maybe it opens up a deal elsewhere, right? I just think now that we've tried to do that, and also the other thing as well, you look on the other side of town, North Melbourne, they're about to lose Ben Brown. And if you speak to people at North Melbourne, you'll say, well, what are you guys doing? Like, how can you lose him for a second-round pick? And they'll say, literally word for word, they'll say, because he's uncontracted. So it's just fascinating how it's not the identical situation, but it's a very similar situation. Ben Brown's a very, very good player. Didn't have a very good 2020. Had the opportunity last year when he was still in contract to get some value for him. They didn't. And now he's uncontracted, so they'll take what they can get. I just don't understand how it's so different in this situation for us. And if I'm missing something, please enlighten me.
I think, I think it's the whole Carlton Essendon thing, right? That also plays a factor. Like, we're rivals. Pom said it a few weeks ago. We're rivals. As much as we want to fuck them over, they want to do the same to us, right? So if you put yourself in their shoes, I get why there's so much posturing. But if pick 8's there, why are you not taking it? Like, you're not giving that much back. I don't care and we're going to go into this. I don't care what other deals you have to get done. Pick 8's there. That's what the media has created this narrative around, and you've now got it, and you're still rejecting it.
Yeah. Well, Debbie's asked, what's stopping North from getting Sard if he goes to the preseason draft? Well, technically they could pick him up, but there's a few things at play here. First of all, he's obviously going to nominate a salary. They may or may not be willing to pay that salary. Second of all, he's made it clear that he won't be doing a medical with any club. Third of all, he's made it clear that he won't be meeting with any club. He's just made it very clear that he doesn't want to go to any other club but Carlton. Now, could North still pick him up against his will? By the letter of the law, probably they could. Will they do it? I don't know. Maybe, probably not. So that's that. But Joe, you've touched on it, and it's important that we unpack this as well, because ultimately this is what it's all about, and this is the reason why there's a bit of a log, in my opinion anyway, there's a bit of a loggerhead here. Shad, we'll play the second clip from the Essendon media machine today.
You look at it from Essendon's perspective, so it sounds like a reasonable deal in the whole scheme of things, which my understanding is that it probably is, with that getting pick 8 and 30 and giving 20 back, but they've got plans for that pick 20 for Jai Caldwell. If that's to get done, they're assuming they've had a conversation, or they have obviously had conversation with GWS, but they've agreed that pick 20 will nearly get it done.
Joe, do you give a shit what Essendon want to do with Jai Caldwell?
No. Do Essendon care that we could have included pick 8 and a future first for an Oliver deal? No. So why, in this case, does Carlton have to sit back and go, oh, no, we need to appease the Bombers because they've got other things that they need to do? No chance. No chance. That's not my problem that you rejected a future second-round pick for Fantasia and you asked for a first. That's not my problem. So if you had taken that future second, you've got extra trade currency to get Caldwell across for a future second, or to trade up and get into the top 20 this year with Essendon. Like, there are so many other avenues that they could have gone down. But for some reason, this narrative is that the Blues have to appease them so that they can get their deals done, and that the Blues are the ones that are holding up trade period. For the last 3 years, since the Dylan Shields saga, Adrian Dodoro has held trade period to ransom. That hasn't changed this year. I don't know where this narrative that Carlton is holding up trade periods come from. It is clearly Adrian Dodoro.
Yeah, and, I think the other thing as well, they have all the mechanisms to get Caldwell if he's such a required player for them. They've got picks 6 and 7. Split it, go get your player. Get your second-round pick for Fantasia, trade it on for Caldwell. Whatever. It's just the point is the contradiction in those two clips, which were actually they're actually one clip. So on the one hand, they've spoken about, pick 8's it's a fair deal. They're just Carlton being unreasonable. And then the very next sentence is, and really from the Essendon perspective, they want to get Jai Caldwell. Man, I couldn't care less. It's not our problem.
It's not. It's absolutely not. And it's just frustrating. It is so frustrating. And the other thing about this is, if we were to give up pick 8, who's to say Dodoro doesn't go to GWS and say, we're walking Caldwell to the preseason draft? We're not paying any more than a third rounder or a second rounder. And then they get 6, 7, 8 and Caldwell for nothing. And they just do what we've been threatening to do the whole time, but they've held us to ransom for so long. And we're the ones that have eventually caved in to appease the other clubs in trade period. And Dodoro just turns around and goes, nah, we're going preseason draft as well.
Yeah. Pom's made a very, very good point. I've had good comments. It's funny. I talk to you on the phone and I'm all, fuck it. Fuck Dodoro. We're not trading away pick 8. Not happening. I talk to Pom and I say, just fucking throw it away, whatever. Ultimately, my feeling, and this, I'll put it to you as well. My feeling is, look, I just don't think we need to be giving up a top 10 pick for an uncontracted player. I think it's bad business. I think we're going to use it for other means, whether it's to, let's break that down. What can we do with a situation where we get Sard and we keep pick 8? What would you do, Joe? And for you guys at home, what would you do?
I think I alluded to it before, and I kind of went through it. But at this point, I would walk away from Dodoro. I'd walk Sard to the preseason draft. Okay, front load his deal heavily and make sure that no one else can essentially bid on him. And let's just think about this. In the AFL, it's never happened in the history of the preseason draft where another club has bid on a player that's nominated for a club or has said that he wants to get to a particular club. So the chance of it happening is next to nothing already. If you front load that deal, it just makes it even more hard or even more difficult for those clubs to do it from a financial standpoint. So I do that, get him for nothing. Then you got pick 8 on draft night. And like I said, there's a kid called Tanner Brun, which Pom would rant and rave about if you asked him about this kid. He's a midfielder out of the Geelong Falcons. I'm pretty sure out of Geelong Falcons. I'm sure Pom will correct me if I've got that wrong. But if he's there at pick 8 and Essendon haven't taken him, you take Tanner Brun. That is a great draft haul and trade period if that happens. If not, and it gets to pick 5 or 6 and he's already been taken, you get on the phone to someone and go, do you want pick 8? All we're going to ask is for your future first. All we need is your future first. And you stockpile another first-round pick next year. If we're not getting Oliver, if we're not getting Merritt, if we're not getting Wines, Dunkley, any of these A-grade mids that we've spoken about this year, if that's not happening this year, stockpile your picks for next year and go hard, not for one midfielder, but for 2 if you can. You got Murphy that's probably going to run out of his deal and potentially retire next year. You got Betts that's going to be retiring. Ed Kernow will probably be on a reduced deal after that. Liam Jones is getting into his 31, 32 territory. You're going to have cap space next year to bring in 2 more players front-ended. So for me, the fact that we're still talking about pick 8 as part of this Saad deal shits me to no end, because I'd be walking into the preseason draft with my own strategy in mind, looking after my own backyard, just like Dodoro would if the shoe was on the other foot.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I know that this year the talk has been Clayton Oliver and Zach Merritt and all of that. I put it to you and everyone at home watching, we won't even be talking about them next year because Josh Kelly's available. And I think that's going to be the talk of the town, because do you remember when we tried to get him across before he signed his 2-year deal just recently? I mean, that's what we tried to do. And then we sort of said, okay, he signed a 2-year deal, takes him to free agency. He's a Carlton boy. We're going to try and lure him back. Barras loves talking about Josh Kelly. Big Footy love a Josh Kelly rumour. So I think that's the situation next year. And then, like you said, we take Saad, we take Williams, we had Charlie Curnow, we had a few guys that didn't play this year into this list. We bank on the investment in the draft that we made, because let's be honest, we made a heavy investment in the draft with this rebuild, and now we're entering into some years where we're hoping it's going to actually start paying us back. Not as defined by Brendan Bolton when he plays kids at 18 years of age, but actually start paying us back. So I'm content. I'm a little nervous. I'm just a little uncomfortable. It's similar to the Martin situation. We ended up getting Martin, and it ended up being the best thing because it was, it didn't cost us anything other than a salary. But until Saad is, banging the drums and, the ladies are, chanting, I'm not going to be satisfied.
Yeah, no, and look, I just think it gets done. I can't see Saad being at Essendon next year. It sounds like he's got some dirt on them as well, just from a few comments in the media today. So a few subtle comments that were made in the media today. He doesn't want to be there. If he doesn't have medicals with other clubs, if he doesn't meet with other clubs, if he doesn't have a contract in front of him from other clubs that can match our deal, he's not going there. So scrap this trade, move on, get Lockie Fogarty done, and just be done with it. Be done with it. And just have pick 30 on the table in the background and say, Dodoro, you had your chance. This is what you're getting now. Come to us at deadline if you want. Otherwise, we're out. So that's I'll be out. Josh Cleves has been peppering us with the same question around, and he wants us to get to it. Riley Beveridge did say today that we've offered a future first, but I don't think it'll get it done on its own. Like, if Dodoro's already knocked back pick 8 and a future, what do we say, third for a future second and Saad, a future first on its own isn't going to get this done. Like, there's no, and I wouldn't be trading future first either, because next year's draft I've spoken about is much deeper and much less compromised than this year. So if you had to go there, you probably got more of a chance of actually securing a better player later in the first round. Yeah,
I think also because we know what this year's been, we know what this year's draft crop is. It's probably the biggest unknown of any draft crop that we've seen in our lifetime. And Josh Cleves and I had this conversation a few days ago, and he's really big on, and I'm sure a lot of people are, do not give a future first pick away for Saad, because next year it's touted as a good draft. Obviously, we're going to be able to have access to watching them again. Recruiters will be able to go to games again, which is something they haven't really been able to do for the most part this year because it's been affected due to the pandemic. So I'm with Josh on that, and I don't know about you guys. There's just no way we can give up a future first for next year for Saad. Like, if you're going to lose a pick like that, it's probably going to be this year where the draft is an unknown.
Yep. Spot on. There's nothing more to add.
Easy done. Joe, any last comments, thoughts, things that are on your mind before we wrap it up?
I just want tomorrow, I want one of two things. The deal either gets done or we publicly say we've walked away and we're walking into the PSD. I hope it's the latter. I hope we take pick 8 to the draft on draft night, trade it for a future first, stockpile for next year, and get Josh Kelly on a wing the year after. Tez, like you've been wanting for so long. We have been linked with Josh Kelly since he was essentially drafted. He's coming to the Blues. So maybe next year's the year. Maybe.
He's got the Carlton look. He's a Brighton boy. He's a clean skin. And more importantly than anything else, Josh Kelly runs down the fucking wing, mate.
That's what you and Bob have preached for so long.
Love it. All right, guys. There's your 30 minutes. We have to go. We hate leaving you, but don't worry, because Thursday you're going to be sick of us. We're going to be doing a mega stream on trade deadline night. Shad is going to have us in the studio. It's going to be powered by Assertive Media, as the show always is. We're talking like a 3.5 hour mega stream. So we'll see who can last from start to finish. We're going to have prizes to give away. Some of the artwork that you see in that corner there, we might give another one of those away. Really looking forward to it. We'll have some more information as to when it starts, and we'll go from there. Joe, thanks for joining. Shad, thank you for your work. Thanks, everyone, for being a part of it, and we'll see you tomorrow.
Go Blues.